Since making my video on the new update overall yesterday, we have had a little bit of time to play around with the new vault weapons and see where they stand in terms of the weapon variety overall and the vault weapons that have come before them. So the three that have been added to the game are the M416, the M240B, and the M93R. Now let's start with my favourite of the bunch, which is the M4. Now the 416 is a gun that I just love. In any game I will happily run it no matter what the stats are, to be honest, but luckily here it is a solid weapon. Comparing it to its counterpart, the M16, the M16 fires a bit faster, but the 416 seems to have better damage, a more consistent kick that I can manage a little bit better, at least on console, and it's just a lot of fun to use. It's consistent, it looks great, it's got good attachments, so many underbarrel options if you want to take different types of grenade launchers, or if you want to take a grip or a laser. The 416 pretty much has you covered on those. Even bringing this into Hazard Zone and setting it up with the ACOG and the suppressor to take out enemies was a load of fun. And yes, I did just say Hazard Zone because I did play Hazard Zone in 2022, and you know what, it was fun. So anyway, getting off topic there, 416 I'm very happy with, and it could easily take its place among the assault rifles as an actual viable option, which is more than I can say for weapons like the ACWR, which in Portal seem to be great, but in the main game suffer heavily from being nerfed for some reason. But the 416 I'll happily put up there with the rest. I would actually pick this one to use in a match, not just for video purposes, but because it's good. Now coming in as my second favourite, the M93R, unfortunately there are no attachments for this one, but to be honest, it doesn't really need any. It's a perfect counterpart to the PF51, they're both fully auto, except for the fact that this actually isn't fully auto, but I'll explain in a second. Its damage is good, its kick is kind of hard to handle at any sort of range past short, but that's the thing, this gun is burst, but if you keep spamming the trigger, it fires like a full auto pistol, and that's kind of where the bullet spam comes in. If you're in close quarters with someone and you let this gun loose, and you're close enough to know you'll be able to hit them with every shot, you're not going to really get out DPS'd, ever. It's the perfect sidearm to have when you're clearing those close quarter buildings. For me personally, I prefer to have a bit more range to my secondaries. That's why I like to run the G57 in its burst mode. It is incredible, and putting it in semi, you can get some decent range shots on it. But I can see for people that like the close quarters stuff for their secondaries more than I do and don't mind not being able to hit anything past about 10 meters, this is a really viable option, and it also just looks really cool. So I like this one a lot, not as much as the M4, but it's still up there. Now for the M240B, I feel like this one is just a bit too similar to the other Vault Weapon LMG options that we already have, unfortunately. It's perfectly fine in its job, its sweet spot at mid-range for suppressing and taking out enemies, it does completely fine. Its kick isn't too bad, its damage is fairly consistent, but I just felt like I was hindered by it in my playstyle, because I like to be a bit more nimble and not hold down long angles for ages. But to be honest, it is perfectly serviceable in its job. I just feel it's a little too similar to the other Vault Weapon LMG that we have, and there's no reason for me to pick this above, say, the LCMG, or the Avansis, or even the PKP. Those all feel a lot more versatile than this one does, but to be honest, it's another case of the looks alone make the weapon. Like the 416, the M240B looks incredible, and I'd happily take it just for that factor. That was easily the one I was the least keen on, but it still is a serviceable option if you really want to use it. So there we have it, the Vault weapons from this update, and all in all this has been a very good drop. I'm happy with it, but what do you think of it? Drop me a comment below and let us know what you think of the new Vault weapons. If you want to come to talk to me or anybody else that loves this game, come over to the No Salt Discord, we'd love to have you there, and I hope to see you again.